Welcome back to What Shall I Read for You? The show that I, Daddy Moreno, who is your host and the author of all these books, I ask for comments and you guys tell me which one of these you want me to read from week to week. And then if you like what you read, you can go purchase them. They're on Amazon, even Barnes & Noble. Some are available on Kindle, and a few are available on audiobooks. So I'm going to get right to it, as I actually have a lot of reading to do this week for you guys. So what happened last week is I uploaded my first episode, and like right after I uploaded it, I got a text message from a friend of mine. And as you can see, he asked me to read to him a part of Felon to Fortune. So, Steve, to honor your request, here is Felon to Fortune. This, for all of you guys who don't know, didn't see last week, this is my first motivational book about a time after I was incarcerated that I have had to deal with having a felony background, but yet I've pushed past it. And as you can read that here, Brian Tracy, who's a best-selling author and a motivational speaker, said this is one of the most amazing and inspiring books he's read in years. So, got that nice quote from Brian Tracy. Thank you so much. So, I'm going to go ahead and read the first story. It's written by Kira Mendez, and her story is called 8 Years. I'm going to read you the first 5 paragraphs. My mom is Mexican. My dad is Puerto Rican. I was born in the United States and raised in Mexico most of my life. At least at times my mom got tired of Los Angeles. I grew up all over LA. Even though my aunts lived in Hollywood, my mom lived near Alvarado and 11th, one of the most gang-infested streets in Los Angeles. My mom and dad's marriage didn't last. My dad was in and out of my life. My sister was 4 years older than me. One of my aunts ran a bar, another worked for a studio. The aunt I loved the most was simply a housewife. Now, all of my aunts are not blood relatives, simply my mom's best friends. We moved around so much, my mom had the idea to move us out to Arizona with one of her friends, my aunt, LOL, but that didn't work out, so we moved back to LA. At that time, I was around 6 years old. My mom had a boyfriend she would leave my sister and I with while she went to work during the day. My mom's boyfriend started molesting my older sister full-fledged and was also touching me on the side. I told my mom about it, and she put him in jail. But he skipped bail. Not sure whatever happened to him after that. So that's the first 5 paragraphs of Felon to Fortune, the first story that's in there. And so this book is full of stories, 6 inspirational stories, as it says, like I said, of people and what they've gone through, and how they've dealt with it after the fact and become successful. So now, we'll put that back. We have a second request, as you'll see, and it's from a Tynesha, and she says that she's reading Felon to Fortune, and she can't wait to read one of my vampire books. So for you today, Tynesha, I'm going to read you part of The Inner Circle. So for all of you guys, this is The Inner Circle, and even though it says written by Rico Lonzo, that's my pen name. That's me on the back there. Let's see, focus on you. So that's me, and I write under the name of Rico Lonzo sometimes, or at least I used to. We're going to start on page 15 of The Inner Circle. And this is Egyptian times. There was an inscription underneath a cornerstone of a pyramid that told how to become what they call a new skin vampire. And so one of our main characters, Sarah, tricked one of her friends, Balfred, into killing himself in search of what they look for, the pure. There's a little bit of background for this scene. Now it says, back in the safety of the shade provided by a local temple, Sarah whispered to herself, now she is a pure. The second girl had barely gotten 10 steps when Sarah dug her fangs into her throat in the bright sunlight. Gulping and gulping, Sarah drained the girl like a thirsty child would empty a Capri Sun. As Sarah dropped the shriveled shell of the girl to the side, like a little bug, like a litter bug would discard an empty can of soda, she stood motionless as the sunlight lit her skin on fire. However, this time something was different. Different from Balfred's experience just a moment prior. Instead of her body eventually bursting into flames, this time, as the sun tore at her night-walking flesh, new flesh was appearing underneath. It seemed that Sarah was going through a transformation. Sarah took the pain as she turned left and right, watching her night-walking flesh burn away. The pain was tolerable since she knew the gift she was receiving in its place. It seemed that the message left under the stone had turned out to be true. Finally, the last spot of night-walking flesh was gone, turned to ash and blown into the distance by the desert winds, as Sarah stood there now nude from head to toe in the bright sunlight and bore her new even longer fangs to let out a growl that was unlike any animal previous in history. With that unearthly sound echoing through the nearby temples, eyes appeared from the shadows of other nearby temples, eyes that had been watching all along. A voice came from one of the hiding shadows in a whisper that joined the tail end of Sarah's growl and quietly bounced off the walls of the other dwellings and temples so all could hear. "She has done it. Sarah has become a new skin. Bow to our new leader." Then Sarah saw all the eyes, all the onlookers, all the hiding night walkers began to bow to their new leader. Sarah had become a new skin, more powerful than any night walker before. She gazed around her with a pleasant but evil smirk at her new world. Then, one last time, she let out the loudest howl yet. The first step of her new evolution was complete. So that's near the beginning of the Inner Circle Stage 1 New Skins. So Sarah just became a new skin. Now this is going back there. And then we come to our third comment this week from Sarai Duran. And I've since talked with her a little bit back and forth, and her name is actually pronounced Sarah, but or can be pronounced Sarai. So thank you so much, Sarai Duran, for commenting. And she would love me to read part of The Tree. And so, for you, Miss Sarah, The Tree. Now I'm going to be reading from chapter 24, which is called A Revelation. And a background on the scene is that this is a book, kind of like, if you like Indiana Jones, it's like Indiana Jones finds a new Garden of Eden. A professor takes his students out to where he believed the original Garden of Eden was, and they actually found it. And they found, it's called the tree, because it's about the tree of knowledge of good and evil. The tree that, Eve took the apple from. But in the book, plus in the Bible, it never mentions an apple. They mention pomegranates. So anyway, they witness something that they're unsure what happens, and this entity shows up, and they have this parabolic microphone because they're listening to the languages, and when the entity shows up, the parabolic microphone goes out. So that's a little background on what you're going to kind of hear out now. So this is chapter 24, A Revelation, and this will be the last reading I do today in this show because we only have 3 comments. Hours had passed since the professor gave his best explanation as to what they all had experienced. He now sat alone in the galley, reading and studying his Bible, as 2 surprise visitors entered, Mary and Sarah. "Professor, can we come in? We don't wish to disturb you," Mary asked. "You're not disturbing me at all. Please, come in. I could use a break." "Sarah, how are you feeling?" Now, I forgot to mention Sarah was kind of attacked and she got sick. And so he asked, "Sarah, how are you feeling?" As she sat, "Better, thanks. I can finally keep food down." Mary then delivered the first question. "Professor, do you have any idea what's been happening here? We are so confused." He took a moment and chose his words carefully. "Well, I do have an idea, but the possibility of that idea being the truth frightens even me." "It couldn't be any more scary than what we've already seen and been through. Please, Professor, do share," Mary continued. "Dear girls, I think we've found exactly what we set out to find. I believe we've been walking in the Garden of Eden." "How is that even possible?" Sarah asked. "Remember, dear girl, through God all things are possible. But I've also found a few verses that support my theory and explain what we saw today and what happened to the parabolic. At least to me. At least to me they do." Mary's fear had turned to eagerness. "Professor, please, I want to know." Here in the book of Genesis, chapter 3, verse 8, it reads, "And they heard the voice of the Lord God walking in the garden in the cool of the day." With a look of shock, Mary retorted, "That's who you think we saw today? But Professor, the Bible also states that no one has ever seen God." That's very true, but think about it. What did anyone really see today? None of you can describe it. All anyone can say is the entity was beautiful. Mary and Sarah looked at each other and then started to tear up as a thought that he could be right. Their hands went to their mouths and they started to shake. There, let's not get all emotional about it. God would never mean us any harm. He flipped a few pages more, and this. Mary had suddenly changed her mind and did not want to hear a thing. She got up fast and covered her ears in fear. "I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear any more." The professor looked over his shoulder at her. "You said you wanted the truth. After all, we are searching for the truth." The expression on her face changed. Then, a moment later, she sat in a huff. "Fine. Let's hear it." Okay then. Here in 2 Corinthians 12:4 it reads, "How that he was caught up into paradise and heard unspeakable words, which is not lawful for a man to utter." He took a moment to think about the words he had just read. I believe that's why the parabolic went out. That entity was speaking the language of the angels, the language of heaven. We are not meant to hear such glorious things, at least not yet. Then he slowly closed his Bible. And the last thing, through the years I've traced the genealogy of Adam and Eve back as far as I could. What I found out would not make historians very happy, but I found that the truth of Adam and Eve's nationality or skin color would be closer to African American than to Anglo-Saxon, as most of our books and photos show us today. The professor looked at the girls. The girls exchanged looks to each other and started to cry all over again, realizing that all that the professor had just said made perfect sense to them as well. The thought that they could be walking where God has walked sunk in deep. They leaned into the professor and all got into a group hug for comfort. So that's that chapter of The Tree. So thank you all for watching. Thank to Steve and Tynesha and Sarai for commenting this week. I'm looking forward to receiving more comments next week from the same people if they want me to read something different, or anyone new who wants to read something, would like me to read one of my books to you. So thanks again for watching. This is Daddy Moreno, aka Rico Lanzo, and you can leave comments below, or you can write me at my email address, which is daddymoreno.defy@gmail.com. And again, thank you for watching. Thank you for spending 10 or 15 minutes on a Sunday with me. And also leave me a comment if you'd rather have me upload on a different day. Maybe you want me to upload on a Friday, so you can watch it Saturday and or Sunday. But for now, I'm doing it on Sunday morning. This is convenient. And again, thank you for watching. Have an amazing rest of your Sunday. Love you all. Mwah. Peace out.